You can ditch your bottle brush trees because I have a much better alternative. I recently made 2 realistic looking evergreen trees using lycopodium moss and a couple sticks. I'm doing a couple experiments to make them look different from one another and trying a couple techniques for flocking. Lycopodium moss is naturally pretty dark, so I'm painting one of the trees. Ironically, I'm painting it moss green. You can see the difference between the unpainted and the painted tree. I'm trying to see if I can paint this by hand using some acrylic paint. Yellow ochre and phthalo green were still too dark, so I mixed in some white and brown. This lighter color I mixed up is more like a sage green. If you plan to color your tree like this, I definitely suggest painting the moss first before assembly because I think hand painting the assembled tree would be very difficult. I gave it a coat of matte Mod Podge and it looks so similar to the spray painted tree. I'll use this hand painted moss to make a wreath and some garland to decorate a fireplace in a future video. I am curious if you can hand paint this moss to make it look like a white tree. I laid on the paint pretty thickly, but you can still see some of the green. If you want a pure white tree, I would suggest using an airbrush or some spray paint. I'm adding faux snow to the larger tree I created. This first technique I'm trying, I'm adding some white glue to white paint. I've seen this sort of mixture used in little baked goods to make a glaze or frosting, so I'm hoping it'll hold some dimension. I'm starting out by adding the snow right to the ends of the branches and laying it on somewhat thick. To compare the look of the small round brush to a fan brush, I turned the tree a quarter turn and switched brushes. The fan brush lays down the paint a lot faster because it has a bigger surface area. I'm only painting half of the tree because I want to try a different technique on the other side. I'm mixing some spackle into the paint and glue mixture to make some faux snow with more dimension. I added enough spackle to my paint and glue mixture until it was about the thickness of creamy peanut butter. I think this looks really similar to the faux snow you find on miniature trees meant for Christmas villages. I think the spackle snow is so much better than the painted side because it looks more realistic. I really love the added dimension on the left versus the right. I added the rest of the spackle mixture to the painted half of the tree as well. The spackle mixture dries somewhat dull and it looks great, but for some added shine, I did cover my entire tree with some satin spray paint. The trees are really unstable on their stick trunks, so I'm using some skinny sticks from Walmart to make a tree stand. If you're interested in these miter shears, you can check out the link in the description. To avoid measuring, I used these 3 wooden pieces to cut 3 more to make 2 stands. I used wood glue to assemble the base in the shape of a plus sign. While the wood glue was still wet, I hot glued the trunk to the top of the stand. Since the wood glue hadn't dried yet, the stand just toppled over and the legs fell off. I avoided the pain of having to wait for things to dry by hanging my trees up by their trunk. That way the weight and imbalance of the tree wasn't knocking over the still drying glued legs. You can see the video where I created these trees right here. You can join my Patreon as a free member or as a paying member for $3 a month. Thanks everyone for watching, and thank you to all of my patrons, free and paid.